Welcome to this new episode of Lucky Last. Building a business in a crowded industry is not easy. So how do you actually stand out? To answer this question, I invited today Neil O'Sullivan, the founder of Nimbus, the Australian wellness brand that has grown from a single studio into 7 locations, a national festival, and a thriving community, all without losing authenticity. If you want to know more about scaling a business, creating impact, and building a brand that lasts, this episode is what you need to hear. Neil, welcome to Lucky Last.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. I'm a big fan of Nimbus. I'm one of your customers. I love the Bondi studio. From the first time I stepped in, I felt really, as you say on your website, at home. It felt really good. I kept coming back. I came with my husband. I came with friends. So we really love it. So I'm really happy to have you here today. But let's start at the beginning. I would like to understand why you started Nimbus and what gap did you notice in the industry?
Yeah, it's a good question because sometimes we're 9 years in and you can get so enthralled in the business itself that you can it's easy to forget why you started it. I don't think we have forgotten it, but sometimes you're in the weeds of things. And nowadays, wellness is so hot right now that it's everywhere. And whilst it's become it kind of feels like a trend at the moment, it's not a trend. All the data is saying that it's trillions of dollars and it's only going to increase. So it's here to stay. But I think a lot of businesses are jumping on it, and rightly so. Whereas when we started back in 2016, January, because it was around the Christmas table, kind of into the new year, I was working in corporate for CBS, the American Broadcast Network, and Sue's a nutritionist by trade, and then I was a semi-professional soccer player. So we had this mix of my corporate marketing background with elite level sports, and she was a nutritionist, and she'd done a few entrepreneurial things as well already. She was doing healthy snacks into corporates before that was kind of a thing. So Sue was very entrepreneurial, and I had ADHD. She kind of just goes for things, whereas I'm much more cautious. What's the plan? So we kind of work well together there. But it also stemmed mainly from a health perspective. So Sue had Lyme's disease at the time. I struggle with inflammation, autoimmune conditions. I struggle with mental health, and I have this condition called MTHFR, which is called the motherfucker condition. And it's basically my body struggles to methylate, which is I've got a 70% loss of function in that process in my body. So I struggle to kind of detox and absorb foods. And coming from Ireland, I think I had a leaky gut as well. And obviously my now wife, being a nutritionist, a lot of the symptoms that I had, she said, that's not normal. So I went down this whole path. So we both had our own personal health journeys, and we kind of just stumbled upon infrared. So Sue was working out of a clinic not too far from here where we're recording today in Sydney, and they had an infrared sauna, but it was a kind of a clinic where you go in and it was part of your protocol after. So it's okay, you have this condition, go and have a sauna. We had the idea, well, what if we flipped it on its head, made saunas about preventative health? And now all the research is caught up around this, saying if you do, twice a week for 40 minutes each time, you'll ward off all-cause mortality by up to 40%, diabetes, Alzheimer's, dementia, etc. And we thought, well, let's flip it, make it preventative, make it a lifestyle brand, and kind of do what yoga and Pilates would have done 20, 40, 50 years ago, where maybe at one point there was not much education about them. It may be seen a bit woo-woo. Now they're just ubiquitous, right? Doesn't matter if you're a guy or a woman, anyone. Having Pilates and yoga, there's more men you see in Pilates nowadays than ever before. So we said, okay, well, let's do that. And then if we can create a brand that feels us, minimal, that is authentic, as you mentioned in the opening piece, which is great to hear, and to try and create a business that actually is good. And right through to today, we still try to achieve that. And that's probably been to our detriment in terms of growth. We have 7 studios, yes, we're 9 years in, but we've grown quite slowly in if you look at it from one point of view. And I think that's been a good thing because we haven't tried to jump on whatever it is to try and just gain. And to be honest, last year we took on 3 new studios. Fitzroy was one in Melbourne, and then we had acquired another previous sauna studio business where we took on 2 of their studios. So we had 3 studios in the space of 6 months, which was too much. And in hindsight, It's easy to go, oh, we increased by 3 studios, but that's sometimes is not what you need at that given time. And if we're being honest, it was probably push us too far to the brink, because you're trying to grow the business, but also operate it efficiently and keep everyone happy. But you're flying around trying to make sure the studio's open. So that was a bit of advice that our mentor relayed on us very early in the pieces. Don't overcapitalize, don't overgrow. And to be honest, in the last 12 months, all the advice that we're getting from people in our sphere is consolidate. Don't even think about growing, because today's market is actually quite challenging. There's businesses closing everywhere. Vacancies are up year on year, I think, for the last 2 years. So a lot of businesses are struggling out there. So it's more about consolidating with what we have in order for us to thrive into the future.
Yes, makes sense. When we come back to your first studio in Bondi, what was your intention behind creating this space? How did you want people to feel when they come in?
Yeah, I think we spoke about off camera about making people feel at home, and that's kind of where the name came from, Nimbus. And people ask me about that. Like, there's a few universe things that I've always associated with clouds. Like when I met my wife, her mum was part of a cloud appreciation society. My name, Neil, in Irish and Gaeilge, derives from the term of cloud. And that sense of feeling amongst the clouds, like we wanted to create that when you come in here, no matter what your day, no matter what your week looks like, we're creating a safe space for you. And if you think about coming into a studio like ours, even different to some of the communal ones, it's a form of escapism. So if you come into our studio, you're coming into a box, then you're going into a room, which is another box, and then you're going into the sauna, which is a third box. So there's 3 layers of separation from, let's say, the real world. And it's amazing, even to this day, it does something to people. People's walls come down when they're in the sauna. They think differently. They get spiritual. They get emotional. It just, because there's not many things we do in our day that doesn't involve stimulation. Sure, you can do mindfulness things like yoga and Pilates and so forth, but it's usually led by a teacher in a room of 30 people. There's music playing. Whereas I just caught up with a friend there over coffee, and he was saying when he does a sauna, he turns everything off. He sits in silence. And he said it's the only bit of silence that he gets in his day. And when it comes to our client survey, because we've just run it again this year, and the results, well, actually the number 1 result this year was relaxation. People come to us to relax. But in the year before, the number 1 reason was the feeling that people get when they leave versus when they arrive, 100%. Which is mind-boggling, because you think, was all the data pushes towards positive for long-term longevity and all kinds of everything, the number 1 reason why people come in, even relaxation, if you can be categorized the same way, that's not really a health benefit. Like there's not a tangible, let's just call it a material health benefit to that. So that feeling that people get, that's it, and we call it the invisible benefit. And there's a lot that goes into creating that. There's no one silver bullet, but it's the smell, it's the staff, it's the color of the studio, it's the products that we stock. All those things have to be carefully curated and constantly evolved, which is fucking infuriating, because you do a studio and you think it's great. 6 months later, it's like, even ourselves, we're like, oh, we need to change that up. And you're constantly having to evolve because you have to. But that's what brings people back,
100%. Like from a customer point of view, every time I get in, I feel like I'm going into a cocoon. And it's my time. And it's just like a peaceful cocoon where I will be able to leave all the worries at the door, enjoy, and then leave after and feel fresh and re-energized.
Yeah, and it's also what we're trying to do at the moment is empowering people to think about, I think you mentioned as well before we started, was each visit is different. And it's easy for me to say because I get to use them when I like, right? So I get it, when you're paying money, you might want to just, watch a Netflix show or chat to friends and stuff like that. But every time you come in, whether it's at a certain time of the day, certain time of the week, certain times of the month, whether it's evening, morning, if it's post-exercise, if it's after a holiday, after a flight, if you're a little bit under the weather, like there's so many different things where you arrive that have come with you on that given day. And for me, sometimes I do want to listen to or watch a Netflix show. Other times I chant. Other times I turn all the lights off. Other times I have the red light on because that's good for inflammation. So it really is a choose your own adventure. Sauna should be seen as like a different experience every time you come in, because sometimes I only do 15 minutes. That's all I want to do today. Other days I feel like I could stay in for hours, you know.
So you mentioned you had a huge growth last year, but over the last 9 years,
9 years, yeah.
you grew from 1 to 7 location. How did you grow while keeping your values?
Yeah, that's the hard part. You know, that is the hard part, because on one hand and then especially when it gets more competitive, it gets even harder, because someone down the road from you is doing the same thing but cheaper. And it's so tempting to go, and you feel like, well, like if they're taking our customers, then what are we going to do? Like, and all you've got is what you can create. So you have to kind of put on your blinker vision a little bit and go, why do we start this? What's our purpose and what makes us? And that's all you've got at the end of the day, because in theory, any man and his dog can go and build a sauna and create a sauna brand. It's not like, we knew this from the beginning as well. It's not like what's a profession? A chiropractor, just for example. You've got to go and study and go through degrees and do a PhD or whatever it is you need to do to be skilled in that area. Whereas anyone can open up a studio and create saunas. Now, it's not as simple as that, but in theory, someone can do that. So all you've got is what you have in your own ethos and values. And that's things like making sure people are welcome. We have everything from 17-year-old girls who come in with skin issues from their doctor and their parents come in. We have people who are struggling with any kind of mental health condition. We have people who are body conscious, and that's one of the beauties about being private, is whilst communal is great and there's a place for it, and I love going to communal myself, but not everybody is comfortable in those areas. So if you don't have a bikini body or a six-pack, or like, then it's, you know, you might feel uncomfortable being in that open forum in front of people, and maybe you've never done an ice bath before. And I get it. And that's the thing about wellness. Like, there's that kind of toxicity or almost competitiveness about it, about going to an ice bath event in Bondi where everyone's fit and looks amazing. And even I have that. I wish I looked like them as well, but it's daunting where someone goes in, I can do 5 minutes, and you're going, But it's scary for people. So we've always tried to be welcoming, accessible, at a price point that, yes, we're boutique and we try and create a premium experience, but we're trying to be accessible, because otherwise, what's the point? At the end of the day, we're trying to make Australians healthier, and we want to make 5% of Australians healthier, the ones who have all the disposable income. That's not what we're interested in. And if that means slower growth and lost opportunities and not trending or whatever it may be, well, so be it, because at the end of the day, we put our goalposts down. We want to stick by that. And like, we hear it through our clients. Our clients will say, oh yeah, I saw that place, I went and tried it, but you know, you're more my ritual. You're more my place. I'm going to come 2 or 3 times a week. So that's lovely when you hear things like that. But it is also scary, because you've got to just continuously create a product that people will come back to.
Yes. So keeping your value, was it the biggest challenge in expanding? Or did you go through any other challenge?
The challenge for us from a model perspective is we're bricks and mortar and service based. So scale is always an issue for us, because there's only so many people you can fit into a sauna, especially a private one, versus 10 people into a communal. So that's always been a challenge for us. You know, off the back of like COVID, we actually were really busy during the day when people were working from home and people were taking Zoom call meetings, and so the middle of the days became really popular. But as things kind of slowly equalized, it got back into that routine. So we're busy on the weekends, busy weeknights, but during the week is our kind of slower time. So that's kind of like an area of occupancy that we're always striving to fill more, but it's very difficult. The other thing at that though is we also work very closely with community partners. So we work with brands like Metal, which is based in WA, which supports people who survive domestic violence. We support Batir, which is the mental health youth charity, Addison Road in Inner West Sydney, because we do have some inventory there that people who maybe might need a sauna the most can't get access to it. So it's all well and good for us to say, well, that's what we strive to, but you've got to put it to practice. So we are working with brands like that to go, well, why not give, whether it's an immigrant or a homeless person or a single parent, like giving them a sauna could change their day, which then spirals into a week, and could, not to say we change their lives, I'm not going to sound too like highfalutin like that, but it's those micro changes can make macro moves. So we are trying to put a lot of that in practice. Everything from energy partners that we work with, we offset all our carbon. We are largely a paperless business, you know, like we don't have printers in the business. We try and limit everything. We had our Nimbus Live recently where we only had 2 posters for the whole thing. So we're very conscious about everything from the toilet paper we use to the washing powder that we have. It's every single square inch of what we do is carefully curated.
And how do you manage wellness in a wellness business?
Do you mean for me personally?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean,
Well, that's the other thing we talk about. Like I spoke about this at Nimbus Live. It's got to be real, okay? So again, another gripe I have is you look online and it's easy to compare. And I've got loads of friends who look amazing and they train and they do all those things, which is great. But I'm a dad. You know, we don't live in Sydney at the moment. Our business is mostly in Sydney and Melbourne. So there's a lot of flying. I've got a 4-year-old son. Like life gets in the way. And people think I sauna and ice bath every day. I absolutely don't. I can go weeks. Yeah, I can go weeks without not doing it. And we're still very healthy. And like, there's actually a sauna in the gym that I'm in now up in Byron Bay, which I use because it's about convenience. Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The experience is a lot different to Nimbus, but it's like, time is money kind of thing, you know? So you got to be real. And I talk about the burger analogy. Like if you need to eat a burger, eat a fucking burger and don't feel bad about it because physiologically we're different. Like I train all the time. I'm in the gym and I do all these things and I just still don't look like some of my peers. And that's just the way it is. So you got to be real about it. What's maintainable, what's sustainable, what's accessible, because if it isn't, you're not going to keep it on. And if you're not going to keep it on, well, then what's the point? Like I did a 90-day health reset on the 1st of January just to kind of test myself. And nothing too crazy, but I followed the workings of Dr. Susanna Soderberg, who's out of Denmark, who has the kind of 2 saunas per week that I mentioned and 10 minutes of cold therapy per week. Mm-hmm. I worked off a training app through I have a podcast as well on mental health. Gary, who's a sports kind of scientist, he gave me his app, so I had a training module, and then I tried to do things with my diet, but nothing too hectic. Mm-hmm. So it was like cutting out sugar, you know, 1 piece of fruit a day, not having gluten. I did a few things, and it was tough. Now I lost 7 or 8 kilos. My abs came back. Like materialistically, you know, I was like, oh, you know, maybe I still got it. You Look at me. But it was people were like, you must have felt great. And I was like, no, I felt fucking horrible. Yeah. Like I was dying for like snacks and chocolate and things like that. And I knew I wasn't going to maintain this forever. Yeah. But what I did do is I kept some really good, solid, healthy habits. So my weight hasn't changed since. But that's my point is like, it's easy to throw yourself into those things. But if you're not going to maintain it ongoing, you got to be careful, because what happens then is you start going into this spiral of like, oh, well, now I'm not good enough. Or I don't look like I don't look now like I did at the end of March, you know, and you start kind of can beat yourself up about it. And that's the thing you got to be. And people, you might be asking me then, well, what is a sustainable thing? And that's the real hard question. And my answer to that is not very sexy, but it's like that 80-20 rule. And I talk about the kind of 4 pillars of health, which is mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual. So if you've got those 4 pillars 80% of the way, I think you're in a pretty good place. And if you're not, that's fine. Having that awareness alone of that, because it's very overwhelming. I should have magnesium and I should be taking creatine. I should be getting 8 hours of sleep. I should be having a sauna twice a week, ice bath. I should be having Pilates, yoga. I should be, you know, you start going, oh my God, like
of pressure.
Yeah, like I'm taking NMN at the moment, which is like, you know, and I have L-theanine, where it's supporting my neurological pathways, and also they help with my condition and longevity and detoxification. But even still, it's like there's so many supplements out there that can be overwhelming. So if you go back to that 4 pillars, if you keep them 80% of the way and just be aware of it, and every now and again I talk about having a pulse check, and that's why things like Whoop are really good, because they give you a live pulse check. But if you just keep those 4 pillars in your head, sometimes write them on a piece of paper, stick it on the fridge, and as you walk by, you go, okay, well, where am I now? And if one of them is below 80, that's okay. That's your focus area for now. And that could be anything. It could be your partnership, sexual health, relationships. It could be your diet. I'm not getting enough sleep, whatever it is. So now you're only focusing on 1 or 2 things, which feels a lot more achievable than trying to like get a six pack.
Yes.
Which
Or stop
involves
eating sweets for,
yeah,
yes.
exactly.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
you're just focusing on one little area, and then that becomes a little win. That goes into your backpack of wins. You're like, okay, I've
Yes.
done that. Well, what next? You know, I think that's more achievable than trying to tackle it all at once.
Great advice. And I think we tend to do that. We're like, okay, summer body, I'm just going to go heavy and hard. This is the only way. But it's not sustainable. We all know that. There is no way you can't, completely stop or quitting something. Like you will have to go back to it eventually because you feel miserable, because you hate yourself. Yeah, you look good, but fuck, mentally you're not there.
And we're all different, right? Like chocolate, I just can't get away from chocolate.
Yeah.
I'm Irish, so bread is a big thing for me.
Yeah, me too. I'm French.
Yeah. Oh, baguette. Ban me.
Croissant.
Oh, croissant. Don't stop. But it's not about giving them up, but it's like I was at a point about a year or so ago where I was having 2 bars of chocolate a day. And I'm not talking about Loco Love. I'm talking about like a Snickers. And that was a really bad habit that I had. And it was because I was so busy and I felt like I needed a reward. And that was my reward. But then you're like 2 bars a day. So it's like, that's not healthy.
Not too much.
But I haven't had a mainstream chocolate in quite a while. So it's not so much about not having chocolate, but now I might have a Loco Love, which has less sugar and natural ingredients. Bread, for example, we have gluten-free, and there's so many good options now, or svelte. But I might not have every breakfast has bread. 1 every 3 days is bread.
Absolutely.
So that's where those kind of pulse checks can come in and give those healthy habits. It's not about giving things up. It's just about tweaking them. And it's all basic lifestyle changes. A lot of this stuff is, like I talk about this as well, and I probably shouldn't because it goes against my business, but saunas are great, but they're not the be all and end all. I'm 10 years into wellness. Most of the things that actually move the dial are usually free. So things like getting sleep, going for a walk, having open conversations with your partner about things, breath work,
Yes.
free. It's free to breathe. So it's like, it's not free to train up, but once you get going, you're set. So like, it's all those things that really move the dial.
Yes, thank you, Neil. Let's talk now about community. It's a big thing for Nimbus. You just had a festival as well. What role does community play in your success?
Oh, I think it's hugely important. I think over the years, we haven't always done this that well, like we always had community, but sometimes it was very one way, as in like we'd have an event and you can come. Whereas now we we took a while to go on the Instagram channel kind of sphere, but now we have where you have a channel for Instagram and creating more community at events where it's not just about showing up and leaving, but that there's 2-way communications on that. So our client survey being one of those things, we give people the opportunity to actually tell us what we're doing good and bad. We also have things like the BBC Club, the Be Better Club, which is in Bondi. We have the Plunge Club, which comes around in the summer, and that's all complimentary. So the Plunge Club happens on the first Saturday of every month during the summer, where we invite people to come on, particularly people who are new, never done an ice bath, as a way for us to welcome them into the community in a safe way. So we give a bit of a spiel where we show people about what's actually going on physiologically, how we like to ice bath and demystify some of the things, because there's so much miscommunication out there about, and particularly for women, to touch on cold therapy, like temperature and the amount of time you're in there and the time of months where you should do and not do an ice bath. It's not commonfold, those things, and people just think jump in an ice bath and just do it, and do 3 minutes and do it at this degree. And I did it in Bali at 2 degrees for 10 minutes and all this kind of stuff.
Oh, wow.
And it's like, we did a great project with Whoop at the beginning of the year where we gave 40 Australians a Whoop and we gave them that sauna protocol and ice bath, and people went away. And for some people, ice baths had a negative impact on their recovery. It's not to say that it's not doing them good, but it's still a stressor on your body.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so it's same with a sauna. And it's like, so like, people say, oh, should I have a sauna on a full stomach? Well, would you go for a run on a full stomach? No. Would you go for a run if you were sick? No. So you have to be aware that it's still a stressor on your body in that time. So if it does make an impact to you personally, you just got to make sure you've got measures around that. So community comes into a lot with that. We also had, off the back of COVID, not to go back at COVID all the time, but I think COVID also taught us a lot about ourselves. It changed wellness internationally forever,
100%.
because it went from Like I was in corporate days, Friday nights at the pub and all that kind of stuff. And then it started to change. Now staff want more out of their workplace. They want more than just beers and drink and stuff like that. Not to say that there's not a place for that still. And people start saying, well, life is too short. Longevity is important. So we, off the back of COVID, we came up with this day called Welcome Your Wellbeing Day, which was a free national community day. And that was really just about welcoming people back from the lockdown era. And it was all free for the whole day. And it sold out in, I think, an hour.
Wow.
And then when the next year came round, people started going, when's Welcome Your Wellbeing Day? And we were like, originally we thought it was just a post-COVID thing. We're like, okay, well, yeah, like maybe like we should give something back. There's 365 days a year. Why not? And as I said at the top of the chat about like, well, we should be accessible. Maybe some people, this might be their only time to get to sauna. So now that's happened, I think, 4 years in a row, and it sells out in less than 10 minutes. Now we have to put out a pre-communication to go, it's going to be live on this date, because people obviously miss out. But even if someone miss out, we always honor it at another time anyway, because that's the whole ethos of it. So yeah, like we've come up with some really cool initiatives like that are important to us. We do a client of the month. So we award someone every single month that's voted by the staff. And that can be for any reason, not just about their loyalty. It could be about something personal that's gone on. So yeah, community is a huge thing for us, because without community, we're just any business down the road. And it's community what brings people back. It's staff and the people that we have that bring people back. The conversations that we hear either directly or indirectly over the years would blow your mind, you know, like in a good way, in the sense of what people are comfortable with sharing and the impact that it has on their life that they share back to us. Like I had a lady there not too long ago who kind of just grabbed my arm in the studio one day, and I was just sitting in reception, and she said, you don't realize, she lost her father, and she said, you don't realize what this space did for me in my recovery from my dad. It saved my life. And I was like, oh my God, what do you say to that, you know?
Yeah. So that's perfect transition timing. What have you learned about what people are really craving when they come to the studio?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's like, I'm going to answer it contradictorily, in the sense of they come for connection but also to disconnect.
Yes, I get it. Yes.
Yeah, like I think they want to belong. Like we're humans, right? We want to belong. And we talk about Nimbus being like a new form of religion. And I think, you know, it's not just us. I think Peaches Pilates and Tori and Chris, our friends who have that, like they're the same as us, like the same type of ethos, and we're like brother and sister.
They used to be neighbors.
Yeah. They went a couple of doors up. Well, we're in Byron together, we're in Melbourne together. And yeah, like they're an awesome brand, and they do a really good job of all that as well. But I think you got to create that community that people feel like they belong. And that's where we were probably not as good, in the sense of doing it as a group mentality, which Peaches are great. They do sponsored walks and all. So that's where the Plunge Club and all were created, as a way to do that, which is, you know, vitally important to us as well. But it's also about when people come in, how do they disconnect? And we get celebrities and superstar sports people and all kinds of stuff. And our ethos has always been like, leave them alone. Like, who are we to go, can we have a selfie, or can you tag us? Like we're kind of, we market ourselves, but we also don't market ourselves. You know, we don't really go out that much into marketing. We market internally with our own tribe, of course, but there's a fine balance there, I think, around it.
And I think not everyone can nail it. And I think this is something that you are doing actually very well.
Oh, look, sometimes because my wife and I are, like, I come from marketing, and whereas, you know, Sue's like, oh, you know, we're marketing too much. So there, like, but then in our client survey, there was a number of things that came up that we already have or have recently introduced, like a loyalty program with points. And that was because our software didn't have that capability, but now it does. But there was people saying it would be great to have a loyalty program, whereas we do. So it's kind of, then you're going, well, we're not marketing enough.
Actually didn't know.
Yeah, exactly. But then it's like you're fighting not just your own battle, you're fighting environmental things, and people get a million emails and they're unsubscribing from things, and you're arriving in spam, but then not everybody's on social media. So it's more challenging than ever to get cut through. But when people come, we want them to disconnect, you know, and we have like a lot of CEOs and busy people on huge brands, and they come into us, and you often think, gosh, that person could easily have a sauna at home, but why are they coming into us? because it goes back to that form of disconnection, escapism. And we have a sauna. Well, we have a sauna at home. Sauning at home is a different experience than going somewhere. You know, because you want to be greeted, you want to feel special and go, "Hey, darling, oh, you look amazing," or "Have you tried this cream?" Or, you know, you want to feel like.
And most of the sauna that we have at home will probably be in the garage or in a small space, like something that you don't have all this experience, you know, this high-end quality feeling when you get in. So,
and the other thing is, even if you have it at home, and we work from home largely, and you have kids, if any parents are listening, it's like that chef analogy where they come home, they don't want to cook, you know. So it's like you've been dealing with saunas all day with your wife, business partner in the same room as you. Then your son comes home, you want to be present for him from the hours of 4 till 7. Then by the time he goes down, it can be 8 o'clock. So now you've got a choice. I could go to the gym, I could eat, I could go to bed because I'm exhausted, or I could have a sauna. But if I have a sauna now, it's 9:30 and I still haven't eaten. So those are the things that go through our heads. So it's like, in theory, it's like, oh, you're lucky you have a sauna. But I'm like, yeah, but half the time I'm like, oh, I just can't be bothered. Like, I just want to go to bed. I don't want to go to bed at late. So yeah, I think people crave that disconnection. So you almost want to be invisible so that they can just escape in whatever it is they need to do on that day. And if they want to have a chat, they want to have a chat. But we talk with the team though, yes, having a conversation is good. But if you feel like someone doesn't want to have a conversation, do not push it.
Yeah. How have you seen your customer change after taking wellness seriously?
This is a great one because in the early days, it was predominantly female. And like we are still female skewed, but it was like 90%. And so you wouldn't see too many guys. Then it started to change where men would come in with their partners. Then, you know, a few months later, it was just the men. And I used to laugh about this because in the studio, I'd say, "Oh, where's your wife today or your partner?" "What do you mean?" Like, "She's at work." Why are you asking that question?
It's just me.
It's just me. Like, why is this weird? Like, you know, and that's kind of tailored into our design, our offering, our messaging. And I don't think we will ever lose the skew to femininity because that's who we are. I'm quite feminine as a bloke anyway. That was the way I was reared, to be very in touch with emotions and feelings. And even with my mental health, I express that very publicly with my own podcast and things like that. So I think it's very important to have that as a cornerstone. I think ice baths brought a lot more men into the picture anyway, just generally with wellness and contrast therapy, which everybody loves these days, hot, cold, hot, colds. But then also, you know, in the early days, it was a lot of wellness enthusiasts, models, sports stars, but now we're getting everybody. We're getting teenagers, elderly couples, people with chronic health conditions. We have mums groups, we have dads, we have people who come in and do like literally team meetings, so they're using the saunas because people are being more efficient with their time. So it's diversified a lot. And then since we brought in the sales of our own sauna machines, which is only really over a year old, when we launched that part of the business, the e-commerce side, and the e-commerce side is split into two. So we've got our kind of beauty range, which is the easiest way to describe that, and that's Sue, my wife, designs all of those. So we have our natural electrolyte, which is called Cloud Form. We have a face oil, we have a body oil, and we have some tools like dry body brushes, and we even have some clothing, we have caps. So we have a few things in that area, and they go really, really well. Everything we kind of design has largely been really popular, particularly in the studio. We haven't quite gone to online yet, but when we brought in the sauna sales, we thought, oh, well, the Nimbus customer would be buying them.
Yes. No.
There has been a few, but largely most of those sales have come from people who didn't even know who we were. Like we had sales of saunas 5 hours inland of Sydney, people in Queensland, a hair salon down in Melbourne has bought us on, a Pilates studio in Adelaide, WA, like all these regions that were not even there, which is really good and interesting, but also then challenging because it feels like actually in practice that we've actually got more than one business. We have our main studio side of business. Then we have an e-commerce business, which is split in half. So selling to anyone for a face oil is a lot different than selling a $15,000 sauna.
100%.
And then off the back of that sauna element, we now do this kind of B2B arm, which is like we do wellness at work. So we come to you and host ice bath days or facial days, or working with actual businesses to promote their own wellness, which might be supply of sauna product or sauna machines, but it also might be just informing a design of a new commercial building on, well, what wellness solution is actually going to work. So that's all very exciting, but it's, you know, that's almost like the third pillar that I call it. Now you've got three almost different businesses with different customers, different avatars, different sales pitches, and different customer service. So that's been a big challenge for us at the same time, that the Nimbus customer has evolved and it's got multiple heads now. And in some way, from a marketing perspective, you shouldn't really say this, but we can kind of, we're trying to create this circular economy where you can kind of have a part of Nimbus with you no matter where you are. You can put a sauna in your home. You can buy a product which is on your person no matter where you travel around the world. Or even if you can't come to us, we can come to you. But that's a challenge in its own sense. And that's a lot of advice that we're getting is like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Yes.
Focus on what you're good at before you kind of do it, even though it's kind of tempting.
Tempting, of course.
Yeah, and you know you can make an impact. And you know that right now, globally, it's on people's attention because they know wellness is a huge thing. But we're trying to balance that, and that's the hard part.
So you just said it, wellness is a huge thing. This industry is booming, or has been for the last few years, especially in Australia, I will say. Australia is a great country for wellness. Now, my question is, where do you see the industry in 5 or 10 years? Do you think the wellness industry will stay as high as it is?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think it's going to go anywhere because I think people appreciate longevity and their well-being more than ever. There's always a place for fun, whether it's a beer or, you know, burgers and things like that. I don't necessarily see it as being a total biohack. And if you want to go down that route, that's fine. Go for it, you know, but it's got to be sustainable. I think one thing that Australians have over many other countries in the world is our attitude towards life is very outdoorsy, athletic, and go for it. That's not the same. Even from my own country in Ireland, it's very different, much more indoor living. So I think we're in a very solid place in terms of the Aussie, you know, in nature in a sense. So I think we're only going to lean into it more and more. Like we're in the top 10 in the world from a wellness perspective. The US is number one, as you would guess. The US is probably about 5 years ahead of where we're at Australia-wise from a health perspective. The UK and Ireland are also in that top 10, which is interesting enough as well. So I think long-term blue sky, I'd love to get it to a place of where the Scandi countries are, you know, where things like saunas, because a lot of research is saying, and I'm not just saying this to be salesy, but, you know, we come across hundreds of thousands of toxins a day, and it's only going to get more and more. Our phones, laptops on our lap, Wi-Fi, and like I'm not woo-woo at all, but you know, if you fly a lot, you get exposed to heavy metals and extra. Like our bodies aren't able to maintain this, and there's a simple test to prove you this. If you come in and do a sauna, and because who was it? I think was it Liam or Chris Hemsworth? I was watching the other day who showed us. If your towel has spots on it, black spots, that's all that heavy metal is trying to get out of your system. So next time you go in for a sauna, just take a look at your towel, and if your towel has a lot of what looks like dirt, that's the heavy metals getting out of your system. So if you drink water like that's not filtered, again, saunas are really important to get those toxins out of your body, and we can't get them out quick enough. And there's lots of studies now trying to prove things, long-term health issues with all those toxins in our body that we can't get rid of them quick enough. What's the best way to get rid of them and quickest? A sauna. And that's why I don't think it's going to go anywhere. We had the guys who work from Harvia who do all the technology and saunas in Finland, and the guy came to my house in Brisbane. He's a really nice guy. If he's watching, hello. The first thing he said to me was, you know, I like your business. In Finland, won't work. Oh. And I was like, okay.
Is it because it's infrared?
No, it's because it's so ingrained in society that in everybody's house and country house and workplace, the sauna is already there.
Yeah.
And I would love for that to happen. I think there's a long way to go. There's 24 million of us here. I think there's a long way to go before we get there. But that would be my dream, that one day, like, saunas should be everywhere. You should have it at home. You should have it in your workplace. And you should also have it in the place where you are social. And I think if we get to that position, then we're going to be in a solid place.
That's exciting and really promising. A couple of more questions now before we conclude. How do you stay grounded while managing all of this in your life?
Oh God, there's probably a few people listening in our own team that would say the opposite to me. Yeah, look, it is challenging because it's an industry that is booming. We get a lot of inbound requests about new products or events or conferences and all those kind of things. And it's easy to get caught up in saying yes to things because as a business owner, at the end of the day, you're just trying to make it a success. We're not there in terms of the financial gain, even though people look at us and go, 7 studios, oh God, you guys must be kind of like under the water. You're going like this, like the clappers. Like we're not there yet by any stretch of the imagination. It's not about that either. Obviously, you want to have Haslow's hierarchy of needs. You want to have security and all and abundance, of course. But that's never been at the detriment of what we're trying to do, Growing them together is a very, very important thing for us. And I think that has kind of largely helped with us being grounded. We also have a very flat system. Was sometimes as the big bad boss, you can make a decision which can be challenging for all the team. But, largely we do try and strive towards a very flat system, as in everyone and anyone has an opinion. Like we just did a staff survey recently as well, which is all anonymous. And there were some things there that are not easy sometimes to read, but that's the environment that we want to create, that people can have
free speech.
Yeah, exactly. And, you just have to take it on the chin and do what you can to navigate all that. And that's helped us a lot with our policy. We have a menstrual policy and we try and do birthday things and we have flexible hours and trying to do as much as we possibly can to create an environment where people want to be there. And we don't always get it right. I don't always get it right. Sometimes you can be the crazy owner. You forget what time it is and you message someone, and we've had to bring in procedures around that and using Slack and all that rather than WhatsApp, because WhatsApp is good in one way. It's great in certain cultures. If you're working with, Asian brands, it's a great way to communicate and it's very ubiquitous there. Whereas in Australia, culturally, it's not as accepted. So there's a lot of things like that you've got to navigate. But yeah, I think all of those things have gone into it. And at the end of the day, Sue and I are, which I wouldn't necessarily recommend, don't go into business with your partner. It's we were rock solid before we started Nimbus, and it's pushed us to the absolute fucking brink many, many times, even to this day. So it's very, very difficult but having said that, Sue and I and all our directors have the same vision of what we think Nimbus is, but we operate very differently. So having different people in there, Sue pulls me up all the time. And even though sometimes you might do something and go, is that you trying to do this for your own benefit, or is this actually for the betterment of the business? And sometimes it's actually hard to tell the difference.
Yes.
You think you're just doing it because you're trying to help, but you're not. So yeah, it's challenging, but having good people around you that are not afraid to tell you when you're not doing things right, that's really hard, because a lot of founders are egotistical, and in some ways you kind of almost have to be egotistical. Maybe I don't agree with that, but it sometimes can breed success. And we're trying to do that differently.
Yes.
And trying to stick to the values and core of what we started. You might go off a little bit. You got to bring it back in. You got to go off a little bit. Yeah. And sometimes that's challenging, because sometimes at the end, it's tough cash flow and all these kind of things. It's a constant battle. And you feel 9-10 years in, you wish you had more comfort around it. That's where you just have to continue to evolve and grow and try and create something that is different and can last.
Well, I think it's working well. I'm sure it's really challenging, but I think from outside you are doing well.
Yeah, and the other point I was going to say from purely health perspective, in terms of the longevity of saunas, whether it's coming to us or anyone, it's not even so much about Nimbus. It's about, I think saunas are just going to have to be part of everybody's life, because I'm 40, right? When you turn 40, you start losing the ability to regenerate cells. Now, what a sauna does and what an ice bath does is they help generate new cells. So if you think about, I use sauna analogy of if you go to the gym and you do a bicep curl, right? You rip the muscle then repairs and the muscle gets stronger. You inflame the muscle, it repairs, it gets stronger. You keep doing that over time, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. What a sauna does is, at a cellular level, it kind of cracks open the cells, it weakens them because you're putting them in a stress environment. You start creating what they call heat shock proteins, and it helps flush out some of those old damaged cells that you're not using. So it creates this kind of circular process in your body where you're actually getting rid of old dead cells and bringing in new ones. So you're actually you're flexing the cellular cells everywhere in your body, not just in your bicep, everywhere. So when I explain that to people, they're like, oh my God, I understand it now. So you're actually creating that neuroplasticity, that cellular regrowth on and off like an accordion all the time. And when you jump into an ice bath, what happens is your heart rate lowers because your body goes into survival mode, like the dive effect they call it. So your body thinks, shit, I'm underwater here. I've got to slow down to survive. So your heart rate lowers, which gives your heart a rest. How often do you give your heart a rest outside of meditation, let's say?
Yeah.
Then what happens is your body starts producing brown fats to kind of spark your metabolism because you're cold. So you need to heat back up. And then when you get out of an ice bath, that's why we recommend you shouldn't have a hot shower, because you want your body, you want to force your body to get back up to homeostasis. So ice baths and saunas are doing that at a cellular rate inside your body twice a week, 3 times a week, whatever it is. Where else are you getting that, you know, from a form of exercise or modality or not? So that's why all that research is saying, like, and it's not a huge amount, twice a week, and you can slice and dice it any way you want. You can do 10 minutes one day, 30 minutes another day. It doesn't need to be fine. Like, I mean, there is a sweet spot, don't get me wrong, but some people say, oh, well, I can't get in 40 minutes twice. Don't stress about that too much. If it's 20 minutes on a Tuesday and 30 minutes on a Friday and Saturday, you're still in a lot better place than not doing it. And when it comes to the cold therapy, again, I shouldn't say this goes against my business, but you don't need to have an ice bath. You can get it from your shower at home. If you're in Bondi, you can have a dip in the ocean. Anything below 15 degrees is giving you the same benefit as 8 degrees. It might take you a little bit longer, but you're not, there's no, I tell people all the time, there's no hidden benefit that you get from doing it colder, you know, the kind of way. So you can splash water on your face. Like, there's loads of different ways. So yeah, it's not all about spending money.
Okay. Thank you for this knowledge
Hot
and sharing
tip, insider
this
tip.
expertise.
But please come to our studio though.
No. One more question. For any business owner or entrepreneur who is trying to scale right now, what advice would you have? And it will be our final question.
Oh God. Don't do it with your loved ones if you want to stay together. I actually don't know the statistic on this, but I'd love to see how many married couples go in and stay together, because it's very, very challenging.
Yes.
Can be rewarding, but very, very challenging. Look, there's 2 ways that sometimes you hear things like, you've got to quit your job and get in the deep end, and which I kind of agreed with that for one sense, because then you're only going to get serious about it. But if you've got like, it's easy to say that, but if you've got a family or a roof over your head and you're paying a mortgage, it's not as black and white as that. I think it's, if you can, and I'm not saying this applies to everybody, but if you can have a job, start it as a side hustle, and then it grows to a certain point where you can switch the light off. I think that's a more safe thing to do, because people talk a lot about failing, and I agree. You know, it's like, oh, failure is good, and you just fail. Who cares? And I had to do a lot of psychological training on my own self that, like, I could go bankrupt. I could lose everything. You've gone to the brink a few times on this. You go to bed worrying about how you're going to pay things. I've been through all of that. So I have done a lot of work in that space to be ready that if that does happen, you're not going to die necessarily. You know, you'll have family and friends, and we're lucky in this country particularly that we have a safety net.
Yes.
We've got good welfare and all those kind of things, and that's not always the case in other countries. So it differs depending on where you are. But I think in this country, like, I wouldn't necessarily, if you want to quit everything and jump in the deep end, go for it. But failure is easy to say in theory, but if you've got a child or you've got to put food on the table, failure is not as black and white as what you're on social media. So I would forewarn people about that. Having said that, I wouldn't start anything unless you're serious. Take your time, you know, try and marry up something that you do from a passion perspective with something that you think can be practical. Like, I don't think in any shape or form that we're killing it. I don't think so, because you see some people who find a $2 product that they pump on Amazon and they make millions of dollars off it, and they have no passion in it. So it's like,
so true.
I toy with those ideas all the time. Gosh, like, we're doing good, but like, should we have done an Amazon product? Like,
I know.
you're like, oh, like,
yes,
9 years in, but then I had a great chat with let's say a kind of a funding finance type person, and I won't name any names and I won't name the brands, but like, we're 9 years in, and sometimes it feels like a slog, and you think, gosh, I wish we just had more comfort, or you could take the foot off the gas a bit. But I spoke to someone more recently who was saying, like, you guys are doing well and all those kind of things, but like, you're still infants. I was like, it's not what I wanted to hear.
Yes, after 9 years, definitely not.
No, and there was brands on his shelf where he was saying, that was a 40-year journey. And I started going, oh my God, 40 years. But if you want to build quality, it's going to take time for most of us. It's not to say you can't have an overnight success. One of my wife's best friends created a fashion business, and she started a few years before Nimbus and is already out of it and has done very well out of that. So it can happen. And if you can do it that way, great. But even using her analogy, she was the model in the photos and she built it from scratch. You've got to be willing to get your hands dirty for years and live off a shoestring. And I mean, the eating beans on toast. If you're not willing to do that, don't bother starting it. Honestly, don't, because it's only going to break you and it's only going to push you to the brink. And you've got to have serious resilience. A lot of resilience you build over time. But if you're not willing to do the hard yards, don't start. And my only other final advice is, if you do it, sometimes I feel like, if you do it alone, it would be easier, which it could be in some ways. But most of the time you do it with people. This is like not easy to take for some people. You need people who are different from you. And it's easy to just pick people who you get on with. Yes. And that can work as well, don't get me wrong. But you don't want to have 3 people who are all the same as you. Yes. And then you're in the same position where the CFO side of the business is weak because you don't have a financial person. Like, I heard that advice years ago about, you need to hire people that can do a job better than you can.
Absolutely, yes.
And that doesn't always yes, if they culturally fit too, but there was too much time, and I came from corporate, hiring people off culture. That's not necessarily great for business. The social side of it, yeah, but you want to have both. So I think you need people with skills and expertise that differ from that can challenge you, that can push you back. Because if you want to be a real entrepreneur and a real leader, you have to be willing to take advice or, take heed from other people's opinions, not just yours, And Warren Buffett, all those guys will say, it's those who listen the most in a room that will go further than those that want to talk the most,
Perfect. Wise words. We are going to end on this. Neil, thank you so much for your wisdom, for sharing these valuable insights, and I wish you all the best with Nimbus. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Lucky Last. If you enjoyed today's conversation, remember to subscribe or follow me on your favorite podcast platform. And if you are more of a visual learner, you can catch the video version of this episode on my YouTube channel. Just search for Lucky Last and hit subscribe to never miss an episode. As always, your support means the world to me. So until next time, keep chasing your dreams and embracing those lucky last chances. See you soon!